Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, and it is looking pretty poor, especially Wednesday, where we're going to see quite a severe low pressure system move in with very strong gusty winds in the south, heavier rain elsewhere, and the risk of some thunderstorms through the afternoon and evening as the centre of the low moves through. We haven't got any weather warnings issued as of yet, but from the looks of the latest runs, it is looking, in my opinion, quite likely we see perhaps a wind warning along the far south coast and maybe a yellow thunderstorm warning issued for central parts of England as we do see that intense low move in. Now, as we had a look at the long range in the GFS, GM, Eastern WF and the ensembles, we have seen rumblings of something drier and perhaps warmer as we head to the middle of August, and that is looking likely once again today. Confidence is increasing for that possibility, with more operational runs showing that into even some of the shorter timeframes now, and the ensembles starting to really get on board. So it is looking encouraging. No heat wave or nothing substantial, but much better than what we have at the moment and what we're going to see generally over the next week or so. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, which do like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in description. So to start on the live radar, we've got a real big model failure today. As I said yesterday, the UKV really wasn't producing much rainfall for today, and most models weren't either, but we're seeing some really quite heavy rain quite widely today, extremely poor from the short range runs. We'll have a look at the UK in a minute, and even the 3 o'clock run from this morning had very little rainfall through much of England and Wales, but instead we're seeing some pretty abysmal conditions with some real heavy rain towards the south coast and even into central parts of the Midlands and northwest England, seeing a few thunderstorms breaking out, just really some quite extensive rainfall, not what we thought we were going to be seeing today. And it's really quite bad news for day 5 of the Ashes down towards the Oval. I'm recording this around 2 p.m, so lunch is about to finish, and it's looking likely there's not going to be much play for the next few hours because of all of this heavy rain moving in. As I said, models had no indication of the extensive nature of this rainfall. It did have some showers around some areas of heavy rain, but nothing this extensive, meaning for many areas there's going to be some washout conditions through this afternoon. The only caveat is that it is moving through very quickly, quite quickly from west to east. So for the Ashes down in London, there may be a few hours of play from maybe 4 or 5 p.m. onwards. But in the time being, it's not looking good. If we do put on the 2 metre temperatures, I said around 2 p.m, again pretty poor today. Maybe alright in the East Anglia, where we're avoiding the rainfall at the moment, but many areas we've got a bit of elevation and a bit of that cloud and rain, especially in northern and western regions. Really poor temperatures into the mid to low teens at best in some of these areas. And again, another pretty drab, miserable day in many regions. Now, if you go over to the UKV, you'll be able to see how much failure the models have been through this morning. And you can see, as I'm recording this around 2 p.m, you can see there is extensive rainfall in northern areas. That was always predicted. It has definitely amplified this through this morning's runs compared to yesterday. But look across southern areas. Nothing really on the UKV here. Yes, a bit of maybe showery rain across East Anglia around 2 p.m. It has got those heavier thundery showers towards the northwest, but generally just a bit of thick cloud, even some sunnier breaks here towards the southwest. That is not what we're seeing in reality. We're seeing extensive rain here. Perhaps it's mismodelled some of this rainfall in the channel, pushing it much further northwards and having it band together a bit more. But regardless, the model should be performing much better than this at this time frame, as from the looks of this, you'd expect there to be pretty decent conditions for much of central southern England, and maybe, pretty much mostly a full day's play at the Ashes. That is looking not likely at the moment, unfortunately. Through the rest of this afternoon and the evening, again, the rainfall should clear very quickly. It said it is moving through at quite a fast speed, and that rainfall in the north may linger through the evening hours, but should clear away through the overnight hours. For the first day of August, it's not actually too bad for many central and eastern regions. A few showers still lingering from the rainfall yesterday, but a new weather front is approaching from the southwest, and this is the stormier conditions we'll be seeing through Wednesday. So the weather front is initially arriving through Tuesday evening, spreading in all overnight Tuesday with some very heavy torrential rainfall along it, and it is going to pivot through The Midlands, Northern England, parts of the Republic of Ireland and North Wales could give some very heavy rainfall there. So again, could be a yellow rainfall warning issued for that as it does pivot through Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning. And again, through the afternoon of Wednesday, we see the centre of the low slide through southern England, big thunderstorms surrounding this, slow moving as well, because towards the centre of the system there is very slow winds. And then to the southern edge of this, that's where we could see some very high wind gusts as well that we'll see in a minute. But some big thunderstorms through the rest of the afternoon into the evening on Wednesday for eventually clearing. And Thursday we're into a kind of cool, or even not quite cold, northerly flow. Again, could be a few heavy showers around, but many areas will be seeing slightly brighter and drier conditions. Those showers perhaps towards the spine of England, where we see maybe some convergence zones appearing there. And then finally into Friday, not too bad during the afternoon. Again, a few heavy thunder showers in the east, but most regions not too bad. And that's the same as we head into Saturday. But again, another weather front could just be sliding into the southwest, and that could give some disruption for the afternoon. Now, if you look at the wind gusts, you can see for this system on Wednesday, it's really the southern edge that's going to have strong winds. There could be 30, 40, maybe just about 50 mile per hour gusts on this northern edge, but really on the southern edge, we're looking widely at 50 to 60 miles per hour. Now, from the looks of this, really not coming far inland, right along the south coast, so we could see quite a large but thin yellow warning for wind here. So we'll have to see what the Met Office does. Again, I thought they might have issued it today, but perhaps it will be issued tomorrow and not issued at all. But considering the time of year and the strength of these winds, even if the model is slightly off, pushing these winds slightly further inland, it could cause quite significant disruption. Of course, there would be disruption to ferry travel and anything in around the Channel area, as there's going to be some very intense winds. And it's looking likely that parts of northern France are really going to be battered by this system. But as we head beyond that, you can see the wind speeds towards central England are quite slow, and this is where, down towards maybe 10 mile per hour gusts, which is really, really quite low. And that is giving the risk for those thunderstorms to be quite slow moving. They could be quite torrential and dangerous in places. Again, could be a weather warning issued for that. We'll have to see. Most likely would be issued through tomorrow morning, but we'll have to see whether the Met Office does decide this is worthy. But from the looks of this latest run, definitely I do think that a yellow wind warning for the south coast and perhaps a thunderstorm warning issued for central England is required. Now, if you look at the max temperatures here, you can see through this afternoon pretty cool in places that have rain, but of course that rain is more extensive, so I doubt we'll be seeing that 20 to 22 degrees across the southeast, most likely widely around the 16 or 17 degree mark, widely colder than average by a good few degrees. As we head into Tuesday, we could see maybe 22, where we do avoid showers. So not too bad, but the rainfall is moving in from the southwest, and into Wednesday those temperatures will be poor, where we see the heavier rain, but could just about spark 21 or 22, quite humid air within the core of this system, and that will allow those thunderstorms to bubble up and the heavy rain to continue, but also where we see maybe some spots of sunshine in the Midlands, could see 22 degrees. Finally into Thursday and Friday, maybe again 21, 22, but look across Scotland, really abysmal towards the low teens as we've got that cold Arctic air moving in. And on to Friday, really struggling, not getting much above 18 or 19 degrees in many areas as that cooler, drier Arctic air is in. You can see that from the 850 HPA temperatures. Look at that, around 2 to 4 degrees. Again, that doesn't sound that cold, but that's around 6 or 7 degrees below average for the time of year, which is really quite low. So we're starting August on a pretty cold and miserable note. But as I said, there is a good chance that maybe from around the 10th onwards, things could start to look much better. So we have a look at that on this latest GFS run. You can see the westerly flow at the moment. You can see the very active low pressure system moving in on Wednesday. That's going to give some really quite abysmal conditions. And beyond that, we stay in a bit of a northerly flow for the rest of the working week. Into the weekend, more lows moving off the Atlantic, giving more unsettled, pretty horrible conditions. But as we head towards day 10, we see signs of a stronger area of high pressure built again. This low struggles to move in and stays more out towards Iceland, impacting the north and the west, but not as much in the south. And as we head towards the end of the run, look at this, high pressure's in control, a bit of an easterly flow, so it's not particularly warm direction, but actually some hot air does get wafted up for western areas here. Does get consumed by some of that cool air in from the east, but you'd look here definitely at average or above average temperatures. Looking here at low 20s, maybe even mid 20s is possible here, up towards the 25-degree mark. Now we are getting on in August, so the sun strength is starting to diminish now. So it's going to get increasingly difficult to get those sort of mid-20s days, which are pretty trivial in June and July when we have strong sunshine. But with this sort of air mass, it still is quite likely to see high teens, low 20s, or even mid-20s quite widely. So much better, big improvement. And look at that, no precipitation at all, really, under this big area of high pressure. But as said, this is from around the 10th of August onwards, not before. I must stress that. So really is sort of 10-day time frame beyond. So not looking at it in the next week or so, but beyond that, it is looking pretty encouraging. If I have a look at the GMs, see whether that has got those hints towards day 10. Again, pretty abysmal, low pressure moving in at the moment. Very unsettled conditions through Wednesday and Thursday. And then more lows moving through the rest of the week and pretty cool northerly flows. Right towards day 10, we do see another low move through, but we are seeing high pressure try to build in around that day 10. Again, it could be a transient low, but we are seeing a little bit of a kink in the jet stream here, which could allow that high pressure to build. So GM has a bit of high pressure building in at day 10, but not quite as encouraging as the GFS. We'll have to see. Of course, if this low is filling in, and if it fills in quite quickly and high pressure builds in here, then we could see something a lot better, a lot drier, probably not a lot warmer because the air is still pretty fresh off the Atlantic, but it'd be a lot drier and those temperatures would rise with that. If you look at the ECMWF, again, generally quite an unsettled westerly flow continuing that very unsettled stormy pattern through Wednesday into Thursday. And we could see continually westerly flow and a bit of an extratropical system moving through there towards the weekend perhaps, and continuing very unsettled, but towards day 10, quite similar to the GFS, where we do still see the lows close by, but generally high pressure is building in with the lows much weaker and much more scattered and not as organised, and you can see that's because the jet stream's a little bit more all over the place, and in this setup we end up in a pocket of high pressure, not in particularly warm air, but warm air would waft up eventually. So both GFS and ECMWF are pretty encouraging with high pressure towards the day 10 and beyond range. GM a little bit more sceptical, but still showing improving signs. So definitely more good runs today if you're looking for something a little bit drier and inevitably a bit warmer as well. But we're not looking at anything hotter or anything really towards any heat wave sort of levels, really just an improvement to average or slightly above average in terms of those temperatures. Now, if you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see this well reflected. The next week until around the 10th of August, it is pretty abysmal. Upper air temperatures are well below average, especially when that northerly wind comes in through the rest of this working week from around Wednesday, Thursday onwards. High levels of precipitation is going to be very unsettled with very miserable, rainy conditions pushing in. And you can see eventually the precipitation dies down and the upper air temperatures rise to generally around average, some going significantly above average, but most just generally hovering around that average mark from around the 10th of August onwards. So definitely looks likely to see some sort of improvement, just not concrete as of yet. If you do look at the 2 meter temperatures, again, improvement in the longer term, more towards the low 20s or mid 20s, but really in the next week to 10 days, 20 at best, more likely high teens. The wind speeds, definitely, you can see a bit of a peak here during Wednesday. Again, it's not going to be the strongest in London because quite far from the coast, but further towards coastal areas along that south coast could be very strong for a sort of 12-hour period through Wednesday. And if we have a look at the sea level pressure as well, definitely signs of improvement in the longer term. But again, really unsettled conditions on Wednesday with that low dropping down to 980 or 990 millibars. That's very low pressure for this time of year. Finally, ECMWF, pretty similar. Again, pretty dry from around the 10th of August onwards, considering the number of ensemble members and compared to the period prior to that, and an improvement in the upper air temperatures, not quite as drastic as the GFS, and there still are plenty of cool runs, but equally plenty of warm runs, just general bits of improvement more towards average. So it is looking still pretty abysmal the next week to 10 days. Lots of unexpected rain around today. Should move through quite quickly in southern areas, but still could linger through the rest of this afternoon in some regions. Not good for the ashes. Hopefully clears by around that 4 or 5 p.m. point. As we head beyond this into the rest of this week, into the The weekend and following week still looking pretty abysmal. Lots of cool, unsettled conditions around, but from around the 10th of August, things should start to pick up from what we're seeing on the latest runs. But no concrete info yet. We'll have to just keep an eye on it. Just a bit of a definitely pick up in the models. But we'll have to wait another couple of days before we can say it will definitely happen. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. If you're looking for something a bit warmer and drier, hopefully around that middle of August point, we'll have something definitely looking better. But we will have to just see. But make sure you do stay safe, as I said, over the next few days. And I'll see you again for another video soon.